Okay, let's talk astrogeothermal chemistry, the aetheron, Krypton, and the Cobalt lunar connection, connecting the Earth with the many colors that we observe on the moon and the ionosphere in a unified toroidal cosmology. All right, many concepts are going to align here, like geology, chemistry, geothermal physics, crystallization under pressure, subterranean formation of minerals through hydrothermal vents, volcanic activity as a driving force of mineral deposits, rainwater, thunderstorms, and weather cycles, all in connection affecting geochemistry. Okay, so if there's a word that you don't understand, write it down and look it up, because I spent a lot of time on this, and if there's a concept that has you stuck, ask me in the comments. Don't forget to like and comment on the video, a positive comment, and share the video if you like this, because this challenges traditional explanations. Okay, now, everything in our reality, on our realm, is toroidally, cyclically connected, from winds to rocks, from rain to metals, from lightning to fusion. All transformations are the same recyclings of the basic elemental forces: fire, water, earth, air, and ether, which is the fifth element, that's plasma. And they're all dictated by ethereal cycles that are driven from the black sun and alchemical reactions caused by pressure on the earth. All right, a volcano is not just geology in the normal heliocentric explanation, but geocentrically, it is the outlet of transformation through fume evaporation. That's going to be a big contributing factor in this video, the alchemical furnaces of the earth. So we know that the reason for a birth of a comet is the same as the creation of an earthquake. And the reason that a rock became a mineral is the same reason what creates a meteorite, or what caused a volcano to awaken, or what causes the pressure of rainwater to accumulate. All of those meteorological phenomena are all driven by the same process. I need you guys to understand this. Okay, so everything comes from the black sun, the source, the center vortex of creation. Cosmic aether energy originating from the black sun below, the black sun is made of aetherons, oscillates back and forth in a cyclical toroidal manner. The sun, the moon, and the stars all exist in a plasma state. They arise from the conical refraction of the total cosmic energy from the black sun below, bifurcated by the electromagnetic ceiling of the toroidal field. So a significant portion of this cosmic aetheronic energy manifests into the sun and the moon. The sun is plasma produced by refracted gamma rays and functions as a pilot source of energy. And then the moon is also plasma produced by refracted X-rays, and it possesses its own eigen frequency. Okay, so the ionosphere is both an element of air and the element of fire. Ionization itself is a form of fire, and fire is a state of plasma. So Earth's atmosphere contains a series of regions with relatively large numbers of electrically charged ions and molecules. Collectively, these regions are known as the ionosphere. That's why they call it that, because it contains ions. High energy X-rays and ultraviolet rays, which comes from the sun, are in constant collision with these gas molecules and ions in the upper ionosphere, sustaining this dynamic field of charged plasma. So what causes flames to burn different colors is combustion, what we call fire, which is defined as the reaction between a fuel like a natural gas or an oxidizing compound like oxygen, or as we just talked about, cobalt can release these gaseous fumes during its transformation. So combustion creates heat and light, and flames take on different colors for a variety of different reasons. So for the formation of fire, the reactants are always oxygen and in the air and a substance that acts as a fuel. Two of the most important factors are temperature and the chemical composition of that fuel. So fuels are solid, liquid, or gaseous substances, but only gaseous fuels can take part in combustion reactions. So with an increase in temperature during combustion, even if a molecule is not a gas, it releases gas at its surface. So at extremely high temperatures, cobalt molecules can ionize and gain enough energy to vaporize into the ionosphere, forming a gaseous phase of elemental cobalt at many various different colors. So krypton is a noble gas. By its very nature, it's chemically inert. That's why they call it an inert noble gas, because it doesn't really bond with any other element under normal conditions. It's chemically inert. So if cobalt were vaporized into a gas and krypton were present, they could coexist as a physical mixture of gases, but not truly mix in the sense of forming a stable compound. They would simply diffuse among each other. And under extreme conditions, like in plasma states or with ionized cobalt and krypton under magnetic confinement, like in the sky, short-lived interactions can occur. And this may be why we never see the moon as the same color all the time. It's constantly changing. So cobalt can be viewed as a dense node of metallic essence, which is an earth-heavy field that can be sublimated into etheric vapor when exposed to intense fire, thermal discharge. And when this transformation occurs, cobalt is no longer purely earth, but it moves into the fire-air boundary. And so krypton represents the noble gas once again, which is an etheric resonator. It does not bind or fix itself, but instead it serves as a carrier of resonance, a medium of insulation and discharge. And so in this framework, cobalt can become a gas, not only in physical heat, but as its field is liberated into compression. And krypton, being noble and inert, it does not chemically bond, but it can host and carry the vibratory pattern of cobalt in its gaseous forms, like a transparent matrix through which cobalt's vaporized essence disperses. Cobalt vapor can intermingle with krypton's inert field, not chemically bonding, but resonating within the noble gas's dielectric insulation. Okay, so when gases, especially metallic vapors, specifically from the isotopes from cobalt, they accumulate in subterranean cavities underground. They may condense or combust, producing explosive discharges that make their way up to the ionosphere that mixes with the krypton. And these explosions, they're very similar to the same dynamics in ionospheric discharges like we see in sprites and the auroras, but on the sublunar plane, a little bit lower. Vapors seek transformation by fire into plasma. So the moon, being a lesser luminary of electromagnetic discharge, similar to the sun, but in a different way, it's ionizing all of these chemical reactions just in a different way than the sun does. So the ionosphere is not merely just air, but it's air transfigured by fire, a plasma medium. X-rays and ultraviolet rays from the sun act as the igniters. These gas molecules in the higher strata become ionized in the ionosphere, entering states of plasma, which is fire in its most highest form. And this ionized cloud acts as a dynamic capacitor of infinite capacity, storing the frequencies and redistributing them across the toroidal firmament. And so at the heart of both of these processes, the underground alchemy of the metals and the celestial alchemy of the moon remains in the inner vortex of the aetherons going through transformations. From the black sun, the aetherons, they ascend and descend into the earth to condense into metals and the ores. And in the moon, the aetherons discharge through cobalt krypton plasma interactions, yielding various luminous qualities. And in the ionosphere, aetherons sustain the fire-air equilibrium, transforming ordinary gases into resonant plasma. It's one huge chemical reaction taking place. Therefore, the moon is not a rock or celestial matter reflecting sunlight, but it's a plasma crucible suspended in the dielectric field, and its glow is born of Krypton's insulating field and Cobalt's metallic resonance, both animated by the aetheronic energy that comes from the black sun, the center vortex. Okay, so some of these extremely high vibrational cosmic aetheronic energies ascend up into the air and remain up there, manifesting into the sun and the moon, the stars, comets, meteorites, etc., etc. Okay, but some of them, they descend back down to penetrate the earth and the solid granite bedrock. The earth is alive in a cycle of exhalation and inhalation at all times, expressing breathing, the weather patterns, and cosmic movement. The earth inhales and exhales, transporting these vapors between the surface and the subsurface, including the evaporation of water vapors and the evaporation of fume vapors. It's very important. I need you guys to understand these two different types of evaporations, okay? This movement of these vapors causes chemical changes in rocks through saturation, pressure, and heat. And this is the cosmic breath of the earth. The air cycle meets the fire cycle both underground and in the sky in the ionosphere. Okay, so the moon, as many have mentioned, is a plasmonic celestial body, claiming that it's made up of phosphorized aetherons, ionized krypton, and cobalt with its many isotopes that goes through all of its transformations all over Earth. It gives off many colors depending on the situation that it's in underground. Okay, so the Earth, as a porous, spongy, living body, contains within its rocky soil innumerable passages, cavities, and galleries. And through these hidden channels, the air perpetually circulates up and back down, the cosmic breathing. And so as vapors, both dry, which are fire-laden vapors, and wet, which are aqueous vapors, they are driven into the subterranean spaces, and they undergo this alchemical transmutation under pressure and different temperatures. Okay, so once again, you have dry vapors, which are igneous fumes, the carriers of fire and the seed of plasma potential, and you have wet vapors, aqueous fumes, the carriers of condensation and mineralization. Okay, so through their interactions, these vapors crystallize into metallic ores, and the minerals are therefore not inert matter, but the solidified residues of evaporative and alchemical processes, consuming the original energies of the vapors in their formation. Cobalt, as one of these condensed products, carries with it its atomic lattice, the memory of fire and air bound into its density. All right, so gases and simple dry fumes are driven into the earth where cavities exist. Any condensation and saturation there can produce a huge array of explosive gaseous reactions and byproducts. Just as a solid and a liquid material exhibit diamagnetic properties, so too do corresponding gases, and they respond to electromagnetism. All of this is stored in ionizing frequency bands that are within the air of the ionosphere, which is a dynamically electromagnetically charged cloud of effectively infinite capacity. In the bowels of the earth and on the surface of the earth, you have dry fumes, which are produced from elements corresponding to fire, like hydrogen, natural gas, fumes from gasoline and oil and other flammable materials, and the noble gases. And so as the sun heats the surface and raises temperature, the evaporation of these dry fumes is maximized. And these dry fumes, they form an invisible cloud of varying concentration, and depending on the volatility, it rises at different speeds, and when thermodynamic conditions permit them to, it reaches the ionosphere. And it is from these concentrated compounds, as I just described, that the celestial phenomena born into the ionosphere are produced. Okay? The earth, as soil, land, and rock, it is permeable to air, containing countless openings like a sponge. You have cavities, caves, underground pathways, galleries, okay? So when air descends downward, vast quantities of these fumes circulate through the subterranean channels. And this underground air cycle plays a decisive role in sustainability. And it also undergoes the cause of gaps and earthquakes and volcanoes. Gaps and earthquakes and volcanoes are caused from the huge concentration of these fumes coming up from underneath the earth. And this process of rocks undergoing transformation, they turn into stone or metal ores. It just depends on the situation. So being permeable to both dry and wet fumes, certain rocks, when the conditions allow it to, undergo transformation through natural processes and chemical reactions. Every rock contains within it other elements, water, fire, and air, through an inexpressible form that could express plasma elements like cobalt. Minerals and metals, they originate from evaporative processes within the Earth's interior, driven by dry fire and wet water steam vapors, the two primary driving forces that are acting upon the Earth and air under pressure and temperature. These transformations, they consume the vapors during creation, leaving behind solidified forms that no longer retain their original energies. So in this framework, the moon acts like just kind of like the sun does, but in a different way, as I've said in other videos. You have the gases in the Earth's upper air: helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon, oxygen, methane, hydrogen, and nitrogen gases, and they all sit in their respective layers, almost like a giant invisible cake. And the lighter gases rise higher and the heavier gases settle lower. So when the sun comes near these gases, the sun acts as a transducer, and it excites and ionizes these gases, and each gas has its own natural vibration. And when it gets energized, these gases glow with its own color. And together, these glowing gases give us the colors of the sky, what we call plasma daylight. So the sun doesn't change color itself, but instead it lights up the surrounding sky around it, and the gases shine in different colors. And so differently, the moon works kind of like that, but in a different way. The difference is that the sun makes the air around it glow, but the moon makes itself glow in these chemical reactions. The moon acts like a cavity filled with gases, especially krypton, and with metallic vapors like cobalt. Krypton doesn't bond with anything, but it's great at holding and carrying resonance. So cobalt, when vaporized and ionized, produces a wide range of colors. So when the moon's inner field gets energized, cobalt and krypton together create this plasma. And this is why the surface of the moon itself changes color, instead of just lighting up the space around it like the sun does. So krypton acts like the clear container that holds the plasma, and cobalt acts like the ink dye that gives the plasma its color. So when the moon's energy changes, the amount of cobalt vapor gets excited and also changes, shifting the colors that we see, sometimes gray, white, sometimes pink or red, blues or greenish tints. And so beneath the Earth, the gases and the vapors, they condense into metals such as cobalt. And above the Earth, gases in the ionosphere glow as plasma daylight when the sun excites them. And so with the moon filled with krypton and cobalt plasma, it glows from within, changing color as its internal energy shifts. So the moon is kind of like the sun. They both create light through plasma, but they do it in different ways. The sun lights the sky around it, while the moon lights itself. So cobalt is a metal that doesn't stay locked in one color. It's in different states. It shifts: pink in sulfide minerals, blue in pigments like cobalt blue, gray as a pure metal, even green or violet in higher oxidation states. Now think about the moon. It too shows many faces of color: red, pink, or orange when the moon is first approaching your view above the horizon. Sometimes it's violet when it's high in the clear sky. Sometimes it's yellow if you're looking at the moon through a dusty air. And sometimes it's gray, which when it's resting, and we know it's gray as a normal color. So scientists explain this as atmospheric scattering, but this gives you a more deeper connection that includes all of the things that I just talked about in a geocentric perspective. If the moon is a plasma cavity filled with krypton and infused with cobalt vapors, then its color shifts are not random. The moon will echo cobalt's own spectrum. Krypton acts like the clear container holding the plasma steady, while cobalt is the resonant ink dye that paints the moon its glow. So when the moon's internal energy changes, cobalt vapor discharges at different frequencies, just as cobalt changes color on the earth, in the ground. So while the sun lights up the air around it, gives us the daylight, the moon lights itself, glowing in cobalt's many colors, giving us the moonlight.